Okay, welcome. I will try to be shortly, and because I don't want to take time to the other speakers, that is shortly what is the agenda, and we are going to talk about the integrated management effectiveness tool that was tested in hundreds of protected areas under the BioPAME program. And there will be the possibility to have a question answer section. So please use the chat box. A colleague of mine, Terry Takala, she will be able to copy and paste your question to us, to send them to us. But for timing constraints, we are not sure that we can address all the questions. So we set Slido. So please join Slido. Terry is going to put the link also in the chat box. And Slido will be opening and available for several days. So we are going to address your question also when this event is finished. And BioPAME is a program that is implemented by IUCN and JRC. JRC is dedicated to the technical component. In making the best available information, scientific information for better decision, and using tools, web platform, web tools. And in the field, we work with other colleagues that are in this event, Carlo Paolini and Domoina Rakotobe, in compiling this tool for the field for helping people for a better management of protected areas. So I will leave this for the end of the section, and I leave the stage to Domoina to start to present the tool, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria Grazia. Again, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon also for those who are in the other side of the world. I'm going to present about the Imet. So my name is Domoina Rakotobe. I am part of a team that is supporting BioPAME with JRC, the COE, and we are mostly in charge of disseminating this tool for protected area users. So I'm going to present, to share my slide. So I'm going to make an introduction of Imet. We talk about Imet as a PAME, or Protected Area Management Effectiveness Tool, and the decision support tool, how to enter data in the Imet, and how to use Imet for PAME and for decision making. And we have some share of experiences in the coaching and experiencing in using Imet in the field. So as you've heard, probably Imet stands for Integrated Management Effectiveness Tool. And it is a protected area management effectiveness tool, or PAME tool, in a form of a computer application. It is freely available, you can download it, and then you can use it without internet. The latest version of Imet made automatic updates, so every time there is a new version, you can have it on your computer. One question that people ask is, can we use Imet for different kind of protected areas? Yes, it's suitable to all protected areas, regardless of their management and governance categories, and even for sites that are not yet listed in the World Database of Protected Areas. And Imet is now available in 4 languages: English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. And you can see the link. It's on the BioPAME site if you want to download Imet. So how is Imet built? Imet has 3 sections, or we call also modules. The first one is the context of intervention. The context of intervention allows an in-depth and allows to focus on key elements for the management, and it can serve as a monograph of the protected area. So you have, in the context of intervention, 7 elements that are assessed. And then there is a second module, the management evaluation, which is the core of Imet. And it evaluates the effectiveness of management through 6 elements: the management context, the planning, inputs, process, outputs, and outcomes. And the last module is the analysis report, which is a summarized version of the assessment in a format that is fit for decision makers and for authorities. So it gives the key elements and especially the operating recommendations for the after the assessment. So this analysis report is automatically produced at the end of the assessment with Imet. And tomorrow we'll have another session that will talk more about this kind of PAME report or analysis report after doing an Imet assessment. So as a PAME assessment tool, Imet measures the quality of management, and it's done through different aspects. The first one is the collection of management-related data and information, and the evaluation of the 6 elements of the PAME framework, as I mentioned earlier. So it's not just from one angle, but through these 6 angles of looking at the context, the planning, the inputs, process, output, and outcomes. And this is based on the PAME framework that was developed by the World Commission on Protected Areas. But Imet also is a participatory assessment. So it's not done by the management team only, but it invites local stakeholders and the participants of the management in a workshop in which everybody and every stakeholders are represented to discuss the management of the protected area. And one key features of Imet is it has visualization aids through a statistic calculation integrated in the tool that produce graphs and bar charts to facilitate the understanding of the quality of the management and to promote critical thinking through the assessment. And one major aspect of Imet that it considers the context of intervention as a key influencing factor for management quality. So this is an in-depth analysis of the management effectiveness of the protected area. But it's not just a PAME tool. I mean, in that it's not just evaluating the quality of the management, it's really a decision support tool also. It is structured and organized in a way that it is result-oriented. With the 3 sections of Imet, there is an automated transfer of the key elements of conservation between those 3 modules: the intervention context, the management evaluation, and the analysis report. That helps to keep it focused on results, and it facilitates subsequent analysis for identification of priorities. So things that have been discussed in the intervention context, there is an automatic transfer to the management evaluation, and then you can see it again in the analysis report. So transfer helps to focus the assessment on key elements. But one thing also with Imet, it provides additional information from digital observatories and satellite information that gives a bigger picture of the situation of the protected area in its landscape or in the ecoregion or at national level. So it helps especially for decision makers to see the importance and the roles of the protected area in the country or in a landscape. And last but not least, Imet is also an approach. So it is supported by a coaching approach that helps promote accountability and transparency culture in the protected area management. And also with the participatory assessment, it favors to hear the voices and the perceptions of other people than the protected area management team. So like local communities, local authorities, the partners of the protected area, the private sector can participate in the assessment to reduce the bias and partiality that can happen. And the coach, the Imet coach, and one of our colleagues is going to explain that more in the next sections of the presentation, will help facilitate the discussion to reduce biases and to encourage critical thinking and analysis. So through the coaching, there is a capacity development for the protected area management team and partners. There is a training on PAME, mentoring, analysis, and a community of practice that goes before the assessment and also after the assessment. Our colleague Leonidas will talk more about that later. But for now, I'm going to pass the floor to my colleague Donald, who is going to talk about how to use Imet to enter data in Imet. Donald, over to you.
Thank you, Domana, for giving me the floor. My name is Donald Josie. I work for the Central African Forest Observatory based in Yaoundé in Cameroon. So I'm going to talk on how to insert data into Imet. Next slide, please. As Domana just said, the Imet is a software, a computer application that you have to download on the website of BioPAMA as the link is shown. It's an open source application that you can get through that link. And we have to mention that Imet is also supported by a manual called the Commit that shows the process of implementing an Imet assessment. Next slide. So we have to say that as each software application, computer application, Imet has a minimum requirement. So the minimum requirement to install the Imet is Windows 10, 64 bits. We have to say that the installation process is simple. It's just like any basic software. So when you got the setup from the link we just show, you just double click and you follow the process as a basic application until the application open. So at the first start, at the first page after the application is open, you will have an alert that tells you whether the Imet is updated or no. You will see on the corner, at the left corner below, on the first on the screen, the version of the application and the alert red in the middle to show you whether your Imet is updated or no. If it's not updated, you only need an internet and to click on the button across to update the application, and you will just wait a while and the application will be updated. It's important to keep update your Imet as you use it. Next slide. So as it was shown on the previous slide, the first window that show you when you have installed an Imet application will also show you a button to open it. Now, the Imet is accompanied by an installation note. So the installation note is also provided in the link that we have shown you before in the BioPAMA website, and that note contains the first how to install the first time, how to update your Imet, the possible issue you may encounter when you are installing the Imet, depending on the machine you are using. Next slide. Now, how to create an Imet form. Imet is basically a structure in terms of form that you have to fill. So we have 3 ways of creating a form using data from an existing Imet. So you have data already existing and you can just import it. Using the most recent version, so you may have two data files with difference in those 2 data files, and you can mesh those data files by choosing which information has to go from one file to another, or by importing on a JSON file. So you can work with someone and he send you the data and you can just import it. Now, as you can see on the screen, you can create Imet form with in 2 ways. First of all, with an Imet can be created based on the list of the protected area already inserted in the database, or in some case, if the database is not updated, you can create an Imet form by creating a protected area in the database that should be updated after in the WDPR. Next slide. Now I'm going to show you a demo to demonstrate what I just said, and I'm going to share my screen with you. So my Imet is shown like this because I've already uploaded a set of data to go faster. If not, when you just first install the Imet, nothing will be shown here in the list of Imet. So it will be a clear version of Imet. And how to create a new Imet. Suppose the WDPA as your protected area already in his database. You just click on this button as you are seeing. Once you click on the button, so you fill this first form where you have the version, the language, the year of evaluation, and the protected area. You have to search it. So let's take this country, for instance, and so you have to search it. Let's take this protected area and go below and just confirm the selection, and the form will be filled, and you will just save. Automatically, you will come out on the first page of the Imet form. So that is how you create an empty Imet form with a protected area already contained in the WDPA. Secondly, you can also create an Imet form if the WDPA has not yet updated your protected area in his database. So this is the process. You click on this button, create a new Imet, non-WDPA. So you have to choose the year, the English, the definition of the Imet. Does it meet the IUCN, the CBD protected area definition? The country, the name, and just put a name. The original name, just insert a name there. The designation, you just write the designation in English, so on and so forth. Type, typology, the area, the surface area, proposed, inscribed, adopted, designated, the year of enactment. So 2020. There is something that, okay, good. And I've saved. So when I save, I'm directly on the first page on the Imet I just created. And you will see that if I come back here, I will see that Imet I just created here. So we also have another mechanism that is very important. Let's take, for instance, this Kizit Imet that is double in our data and in our Imet, this Kizit protected area. We see that is the same year, and so it gives us the possibility to merge the two Imet. So Merging comes up in two conditions when you have the same protected area in the list and the same year. And if you click the merge button, it brings you to this screen that it is the merge. You click the protected area, the data source is the data source you click. So we have the KISIT 8 here is the data source you click, and you want to put it in 9. So that's why we click here, destination, and you can start seeing the difference between the 8 and the 9. 8 and 9, where the different indicators are different. You will see that you can show what is the difference between the two before applying the merge. And if you apply, there will be a merge of these two forms. So Moana, I think I've gone across what I wanted to show. I think I can come back to the presentation. I've stopped sharing my screen. And I think it was remaining one slide. Imet is very, very user-friendly. I don't want to talk about the comparison between Imet and other PAME tools here, but from my experience, Imet is very, very user-friendly. Data can be easily shared with Imet. Comparison can be carried out easily. The function of import and export of data are easier and can permit really to share between different database and observatory. Thank you, Domoena. I think I have kept to my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donald. And as Donald said, it's user-friendly, but we invite you to use it so that you can see it yourself. I'm going to pass Bertie Mayen. I think she's in the room, and she's going to talk about experiences in using Imet for decision support. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second and let Bertie introduce herself and explain how she used Imet and in which organization she is.
Thank you, Domonia. Fine. How did we use the Imet for decision-making tools? I must admit that when we started using the Imet, the main issue for us was to have a tool that could help us to do appropriate planning at the trans-bordering landscape. Okay. Yes, Domonia, sorry, I had to move from where I was seated. Apparently the camera is just in front of me. Sorry about that. So I was saying that we used the Imet in 2016 in the binational complex, Bubajida in Senaura, Bubajida in Cameroon and Senaura in Chad. We needed a tool that could help us in doing appropriate planning at the trans-bordering landscape level. So it was important for us at the beginning to have an assessment of the management effectiveness of this protected area. We were at a crossroad where also we needed to prepare the management plan of these protected areas. So doing the assessment was quite useful for us to go in depth into the issues that that we couldn't identify with just an ordinary studies. So doing an assessment involving the communities in the process, involving the different stakeholders, be it at the central level up to the grassroots level, was quite useful for us to identify the key issues. And after identifying these key issues, we discussed them with the different people involved and the stakeholders that participated in the process. And that's how we came up actually with an action plan. The action plan then was now brought further at the project level. I'm working for GIZ as the experts in transbordering protected areas management then. So it was useful for us also at project level to have that action plan that was driven by the very same community living around the protected areas and driven by the stakeholders involving in the management of those protected areas. So it gave some kind of legitimacy in the work that we were doing, and also, you know, planting the seed for sustainability in terms of the action that we were going to implement in the field. So basically, that's how we use the Imet in Bubajida and in Senaura. And like I mentioned earlier, it also enabled us to give the direction to the management plan that we were actually to draft later on. Because then we had two protected areas sharing the same borders, but having some common issues, but also some specific issues. And those specific issues needed to be brought to light while we were discussing and negotiating with the different stakeholders on the program we were going to insert in the management plan. So this is how we use the Imet at that level. And besides that, also when the modules of the Imet on law enforcement also was released, we equally used it in those two protected areas. And the third protected area as well, which I didn't mention earlier, which is Benue National Park. So it also helped us in identifying the key strengths and weaknesses of our law enforcement protection programs which we have in those protected areas. Definitely the Imet tool was quite useful for us in terms of planning. It was quite useful in terms of bridging the gap between the communities living around those protected areas and the management team, because then they got involved into deciding on what was going to be their future tomorrow. They got involved in designing the program that were also suitable for them and that were reflective of the reality on the ground. The Imet also helped us as a communication tool to communicate with the different partners intervening in that area and communicating also with the line ministries on the different findings we got from the field. So basically, I usually say I don't need to sell the Imet itself. It's actually a very useful tool in terms of not only assessing the effectiveness of the management of protected areas, but also bringing people together to sit at the same table to discuss their very own issue and coming up with solutions that are reflective of their own reality. In so doing, we can then ensure that the action that we will have will definitely score a great impact in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bertie. It was very useful to hear the use of Imet in the field and how it really brings people together, not only from the protected area team, but with a much broader spectrum of protected area stakeholders. We have planned to have a few minutes for question and answers at this point. I don't know, Maria Grazia, if you got some questions. I have here with me some others experts on Imet that can answer the question. So I don't know, Maria Grazia, just one or two questions at this point so that we don't lose track of time.
I didn't receive in the chat any question, but I asked IUCN colleague to help us with the people that are in the room. So if there are any question there, and if possible, probably we need also to put in a slide the link for the participants, because there are people that probably are using the wrong link. So they're going to Teams with the speakers. And so we are trying to manage that, or maybe who is able to write in the chat can put the right link in the chat. So I can do here in Teams, and so I ask Rushir or Roxana or people that are in the room if there are any question from there.
We will leave some time also at the end of the session for additional questions. So maybe we need to move forward. And I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm inviting Leonidas to talk more about this coaching as a process in Imet that is very critical to ensure that it is well done and it's really participatory and promotes equity. Again, I'm sharing my screen. So I hope you can see my screen again. This is just one slide that can give you the location of what Bertie said earlier about this transboundary protected areas in Chad, Cameroon, and also next to Nigeria. So Leonidas, are you ready?
Hi, Domoina. Do you hear me?
I hear you perfectly.
Okay, greetings to everybody. Okay. Okay. I'd like to talk about Imet coaching objectives. And first of all, I'd like to talk about who is a coach of protected area. And I can say that a coach of protected area is a professional accompanier in charge of supporting protected area management teams in the field to better collect the data, to analyze them in order to make good management decisions. The coach is not a policeman who is there to point out faults and take sanctions. He is not there to impose his opinion as expert on the management team of a protected area. A coach is there to facilitate, to accompany, so that any response given indicator is a consensus response. He is a guide. He is a facilitator, as I have said. He can't impose his vision. What is the mission of a coach? I can say that at the country level, he participates in the identification of the program for improving the management and governance of protected areas with the definition of intervention priorities. This is very important. He introduces also and trains the management teams of the protected areas to the use of Imet and to analyze the results for the improvement of the management and governance of the protected areas, and also the development of the internal planning, monitoring, evaluation system. I can say that in the case of Burundi, we are three in Burundi. In 14 protected areas of Burundi, it was in 2016. And after the collection of that data, we have elaborated a national report which has been validated by high authorities of our country in charge of protected areas and biodiversity. So in Burundi, 14 protected area management have been trained on the use of Imet as Imet tool as a way for building the capacity, especially in the management cycle of protected areas. Let me say that also another mission of a coach is to support protected area teams, as I have said, and the national agency in charge of protected areas to at the end of each stage of collection of data. And also, it's very important that the coach participates in the exchange network on the use and the improvement of Imet tool. It contributes to the establishment of a functional links between protected area networks and observatories such as OFAC in Central Africa. Let me say that the methodology which is regularly used is that the coach works under the coordination of existing regional and sub-regional institutions. I mean, in Central Africa, COMIFAC, OFAC. There is other observatory in other region or sub-region. Works also in collaboration with monitoring planning unit in different national agencies. Also, the coach reports to the National Protected Area Agency. This is very, very important. The coach also is committed to use his expertise for the benefit of protected areas in his country and also in all the region, Central Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, and so on. This is the mission of the coach and how he works and who he is. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Leonidas, for explaining the roles of the coaches and how they make this bridge and connections between the site level to the national level, but also at regional level with the regional observatories of protected areas in their own region. And you've been a coach for many years right now, and I see also that there are other coaches here in the room, but you can have the list of the coaches through the IUCN BioPAMA team if you would like to implement Imet in your country. I don't know if Peter Mills is in the room. We would like to ask him to share his experience with Imet, or just for a few minutes, after using several other tools, and especially in the Southern Africa region, where they have longer experience with other tools, and how it is to use another tool after using other tools. And I'm going to ask maybe Roshir, Roxana, if Peter Mills is in the room. Otherwise, maybe we can ask other coaches to share their experiences, and we can receive also question and answers.
So I think that you are very close to finish because we have 50 minutes. We received some question. One of the question is about Imet and marine protected areas. We applied Imet in marine protected areas. We are working tailoring the tool more for marine protected areas. Probably we are going to talk about that in the next event that will be tomorrow. I'm going to show a slide with the Imet events of the WCC. And I don't know if there is the possibility to have some information from the room, from Rocher, if Peter is there. Otherwise, I have a question to you, Domoina, that was posted in the chat that is regarding Imet. I'm wondering who is going to be the owner of the database. Also, would there any agreement for the data sharing mechanism for Imet? So if you want to answer this question, and after that, I think that we need to close. So I will show the last slide with the other Imet events, and be over from us, I think.
Thank you, Maria Grazia, for that question, and I would like to invite my colleague Carlo also on that point. But just the basic point is, first of all, the data is for the protected area team. So they produce that data, and it's the data about the protected area. So it's very linked to the management authority of the protected area. And then depending on the agreements that this protected area agency or the National Administration of Protected Area Agency has agreements with observatories, like in the Central Africa, they have agreements with the OFAC, the Observatory of Protected Area in that region. In the other regions also, they have agreements. So that's how it works. The BioPAMA per se do not own the data or GRC, but it's really the national level. I don't know, Carlo or also Donald, who works for OFAC, if you want to add very briefly answers to that.
Thank you, Domana. I will just say that my experience with the OFAC, which is a regional observatory, is that Imet permits us to collect several data. And we have requests of people that want to use data, but generally we ask them to write to the institution, and there are also level, how will I say it, we filter data. There are some data we can give, let's say, to a student, to a university, to a partner, or to another institution or observatory, and there is a filter that we do. There are some people that only want the radar. We provide them with radar. There are some people that only want the level of threats. How are the threats in the area? We know how to present it at observatory and give it to them. But basically, as an institution, we ask them to write, to do a demand, official demand, before we provide them with data. And there are some data that are sensitive, and there are some that are not. At Benue institution, we do a protocol of sharing data, and that works with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Donald, for giving us this perspective from the observatory angle. And so you can always ask them what kind of data you need.
Can I add maybe?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Domonia. Maybe I can be more specific, for example, for the case of the Democratic Republic of Congo, that is making lots of Imet each year, but in this case, they don't share the data, but they share the data at the country level. So there is the local, the national authority that centralize, because Imet is a database, and exploit this data for their strategy and for their planning. So in this case, we can use the data from Imet, for example, to share and to make, for example, scaling up at the regional level, as we already done. But you can also to make analysis at the national level. And in this case, there is the possibility in the database to create an administrator that is the owner of the data and can exploit the data just for one country or one landscape and so on. So there is more possibility from large use or restricted use. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Carlo. Yeah, so there are specificities also for each country. So I see one question, the difference between Imet and Met. I don't know if who wants to answer that? And we've already answered the question about the marine.
Peter is not available. He's not in the room.
I don't know. And we have 3 minutes left to answer. So maybe, I don't know if Bertie can answer or...
Yes, Domoina, I may speak if you can come again and let me know what you expect from me in terms of the answer.
Oh, just the question was, is there a difference between Met and Imet? So
definitely there is a difference between Met and Imet. I mean, you have Met and you have Imet. There is an addition. There is an I that is added onto the word Met. And this I is actually, I will call it the I information, meaning that we get more information using the Imet than the Met. I'm not here to compare the two. What I know and understand is that a lot of the Met was also used in creating the Imet. The Imet has added values, and in terms of governance, the scoring, and everything that is generated automatically as you use the form. And also probably one of the key issue here that I will want to raise up regarding the Imet and the Met is that with the Imet, we got to delve deeper into governance issues, into ecosystem services, which definitely with the previous version of the Met, we could not find that. So definitely there is an addition and added value using the Imet compared to the Met. But I think also here, the important thing is to identify why we are doing the assessment. Why do you do the assessment, and what are your different objectives? That will definitely lead you into the right tools to use. It's not about comparing, but it's about using the right tool to do exactly what you need and to achieve the result that you are expecting. Does that help?
Thank you very much, Bertie.
Yeah. And probably also I want to add, Domonia, on one thing here. Is the last module of the Imet on governance, which we actually use as a pilot in the Tai National Park earlier this year in February. We also conducted an Imet there, and it's actually quite useful for that transbordering landscape. Tai National Park, Grebo in Cote d'Ivoire, then we have Grebo-Kran and Sapo in Liberia, where we are going to conduct some Imet assessment later on this year, probably around November. So definitely all these issues can be assessed and studied, more in depth with the tool Imet. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertie.
Domonia, can I add just?
Yeah, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. No, just to remember that Met, the new Met, there is new version of Met, and the Met, the new version is like Imet, strong oriented in outcome achievement. So we are Imet and Met go on the green list approach, we can say, and both can support this new strong oriented, result oriented approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Grazia, over to you to close this session. And thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I thank you, really. Thank you, Bertil, and thank you also, Carlo. And yeah, would like to promote Protected Areas Management Effectiveness tool. And really, doesn't matter what kind of tool, it's really important what kind of question we have and using the right tool for the right question. And yeah, I share my screen just to inform the other event where BioPAMA and Imet will be. Seems okay. So this is again the Slido. You should have the link in the chat. Please use to reach out us. We will be really happy to address your question and to be in contact with you. And there are also our mail address. Please contact us. And here there is the Imet events at the WCC. We have an Imet session tomorrow on the 5th at the 3 p.m. In the afternoon. We are going to talk more about new approaches. So also some lessons learned from the Caribbean and, for example, from Eastern Southern Africa. And on the 7th September, we have a clinic, 30 minutes, where we are going to talk about the scaling up. That is one of the possibilities that Imet provide to the users. So thank you very much all, and apologize if for any technical, difficulties, and happy to be in contact with you all. Thanks.